This episode of PodCRASH is brought to you by Spirit Hoods. You don't have to enjoy cosplay to love a Spirit Hood. Spirit Hoods are like a warm, fuzzy hat with ears that includes a scarf and mittens. Fashionable in the cold or in the evening, they come in styles for men, women, and kids, and animal styles like gray wolf, brown bear, tiger, snow leopard, and panda. Go to spirithoods.com and enter the offer code PodCRASH. You'll get 15% off your order. Spirit Hoods, join the tribe. Now, on with the show. Welcome to the show. I am that Chris Gore, and I won't tell you this is a very special episode of PodCRASH. I'm not going to say that unless you love zombies. And if you love zombies like I do, then this will be very special. Okay, so I guess we're keeping the trend going. The Walking Dead actually comes back to AMC this month. It's the second half of the second season. We're going to learn everything that will transpire at the farm, and we're going to find out what the consequences are for Shane's actions. I love Shane. And I'll have to, first of all, admit to you that I've actually seen the first 4 episodes of The Walking Dead, the second half of the season already. It's amazing. No spoilers. Don't worry. There will be no spoilers here. I will say that some of the events that transpire actually divert quite a bit from the comic book. And I'm really anxious to see how people react to it. And I'm frustrated as hell because I don't have anybody to talk to about it. I got to wait till it actually airs. But the show that we're crashing this week is a show called This Week in Walking Dead. It was a podcast/video show that appeared on YouTube that ran during the course of the first season of The Walking Dead. Now, this should not be confused with The Talking Dead, the show that's on AMC that comes after The Walking Dead, hosted by Chris Hardwick. I have not been on that show. I don't know why. I think I'd be a good guest on that show, but I have not been. But I was on the show This Week in Walking Dead, and it was a blast. It was basically a collection of freaks like myself and hosted by a guy named Matt Raub, and really awesome show. But before I tell you about that, I want to tell you a little bit about how I became obsessed with zombies. I mean, like a lot of you, you probably saw Night of the Living Dead when you were younger. And I saw that on a show in Detroit called The Ghoul. I grew up in Detroit. There was a show called The Ghoul. And The Ghoul was this character. He was played by a guy named Ron Sweed. He would come on and he would do things like, he would play kids' home movies, Super 8 home movies. He would blow up a rubber frog he called Froggy. He would blow up model kits. He would do cheesy sketches that were horrible that he made fun of them while he was in them. He was my hero growing up as a kid. I loved The Ghoul. And he would make fun of the movies. But when I saw Night of the Living Dead, I mean, it was really the first time that I saw a film that ended on such a dark note. I mean, when Dwayne Jones meets his demise at the end, it's horrific. It's not like, Creature from the Black Lagoon, guy in a rubber suit, or a lot of the other movies, they're cheesy monsters. This thing was dark, and the real horror of that is, of the original Night of the Living Dead, is how the people treat each other. You can talk about the flesh-eating ghouls all you want. The humans are the monsters in the George Romero zombie films. This is what really ends up happening. So I saw that as a kid, and it just rocked my world. It just destroyed me. So much so that I actually saved the money for my newspaper route. Yeah, I had a lot of odd jobs when I was a kid because I had to pay for my obsessions. Didn't have much of an allowance. I had to earn money in Detroit. So I earned it I had a newspaper route from the time I was like 9, I'm embarrassed to say, through the time I was like 19 years old. My first year of college, I actually still did that newspaper route because it was good money. Anyways, so I saved up and I bought an entire feature-length Super 8 sound copy of Night of the Living Dead that I actually screened for all the neighborhood kids by projecting it on the side of my garage. I know, it's weird. But this was even before VCRs. So I'd seen it countless times, owning my own print on Super 8. when I saw Dawn of the Dead later, which I can't believe my mom actually dropped me off at this screening of Dawn of the Dead, which was it was supposed to end an all-night screening of movies that started at like 8 at night, went all the way through like 6 a.m. I mean, it was light up by the time we got out of the theater. And I remember when that head exploded, I mean, that just blew me away. I mean, that changed so many things in cinema, just in terms of like the level, what you could do in horror. And I feel like it had the same kind of impact that that opening shot of the original Star Wars non-special edition version had as well. Now, I'm recording this actually in a hotel room in New York because this show has to come out every week. And I have an insane schedule where, you know, I have to keep up with all of my duties, you know, at G4 and Attack of the Show. I'm traveling and whatnot. So I have to find these windows of time where I can actually record the wraparounds for each week's PodCRASH. And sometimes they're in odd situations. I hope I don't wake up anyone or piss them off. Actually, who gives a shit? Anyways, so there's one thing I do need to tell you, is that you can hear our show on Stitcher Smart Radio. Stitcher allows you to listen to your favorite shows directly from your iPhone, Android phone, BlackBerry, or Palm phones, on demand and on the go. There are over 5,000 shows on Stitcher, including this one. Don't have Stitcher? Download it for free at Stitcher.com or in the app stores. Stitcher Smart Radio, smarter way to listen to radio. All right, so let me tell you about This Week in Walking Dead. It was hosted by a guy named Matt Raub, and I helped out in terms of just suggesting some cool people to be on the show, like my buddy Jim Agnew, who's a screenwriter. He wrote a zombie feature called Zombie Nation, which was never made, but he had a movie produced recently by Dario Argento. Jim seems to know something about zombies. Also, Jonah Ray. A lot of you know Jonah from the Nerdist podcast. Also, he's becoming a well-known comedian now. It's amazing. I love it. I love it when someone I knew, and then he was a writer on Talk Soup. Suddenly, the guy's taken off. So he was also part of This Week in Walking Dead. And then also, there's a girl on the show named Meredith Stokes. And full disclosure, we dated, yes. At the time that the episodes of This Week in Walking Dead were made, we were not together. We had dated on and off for almost a year. And you might notice maybe some uncomfortable moments there, but we kind of were at that stage where we were both kind of done, and it was cool, and we were both seeing other people. But, you know, there's a little something. There's always a little something. You know, I kind of feel the way about relationships. I think it should be kind of the opposite of zombies. I think when a relationship dies, it should stay dead. Zombies, they wouldn't be very interesting if they stayed dead. But, you know, relationships should be dead, go away, and they should never rise from the grave. Because just speaking from personal experience, and believe me, you can learn a lot from my mistakes, revisiting a relationship probably always a bad idea. It just always is. And that didn't happen. We just saw each other on the show, which is going to be entertaining for you as we listen to highlights from 3 episodes of This Week in Walking Dead. No spoilers, folks. You're going to enjoy this. It's all zombie talk on PodCRASH. This Week in the Walking Dead.
Also joining us for the very first time from G4, along with countless other things, the always awesome Chris Gore. And you've got just an entire laundry list of zombie cred, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, sadly, I owned a copy of Night of the Living Dead on Super 8 when I was a kid.
That's not sad.
That's not sad.
That's awesome.
When I was a kid, I had the movie on Super 8, showed it to all the other neighborhood kids. I don't know, I just, from that movie, that really just hooked me on zombies. And in fact, when I heard that they were remaking Night of the Living Dead, directed by Tom Savini, who of course is in Dawn of the Dead, he's the lead biker who gets ripped apart and devoured, I went to Pittsburgh and basically slept on the couch with two guys who were doing makeup and begged them to please put me in the movie as a zombie. I went to the zombie school to learn how to walk like a zombie. Basically, it's like you got to take a really big crap, and you walk slow. So
crap
serious.
And walk slowly.
Yeah, yeah. and then you know, happy to play a zombie in a key scene where I got to drag a dead husk of a body out of the truck, previously played by Billy Butler, and Savini directed me in this scene, and I got to eat some sort of chewy chicken covered in Caro syrup.
Delicious.
Oh, not so great.
Tasty Caro syrup. But I mean, so we've all seen the first episode by now, and a little segment we like to do called the Kill of the Week, which a lot of us have agreed on. You have not.
Well, are you and I in an agreement on this?
I kind of liked your idea better.
Okay, well I picked it, and I didn't listen to them.
Screw you.
Yeah, what do I know? So let's actually roll that clip. Our Kill of the Week, or my choice for the Kill of the Week, for episode 1 of The Walking Dead. So let's roll that.
Little girl.
The cool part, I mean, the fact that it's the cold open, and they set the whole precedent for the show. Okay. Because if you're, let's face it, AMC fans, they're used to meth dealers and guys in the 60s. They're not probably
in the 60s drinking whiskey.
I'm sorry, yes, whiskey drinkers of the 60s. They're not that inundated in the zombie world. I mean, you're trying to make this appeal to an audience that is.
Here's the scary part.
Oh, that poor little girl. That poor little girl. And that right there sets the precedent for the entire show. I was sold. I mean, I read the books, as did all of us, but that scene made me just geek out a little bit for the rest of the series, and I cannot wait. I mean, that if you raise the bar there, how much further can they go on AMC?
I'm trying to think in zombie movies previous to this, if a child zombie. I mean, there is in the first Night of the Living Dead, that girl's she's not quite a little girl. It's more of a teenager.
Right.
You know, the girl in the basement. But yeah, that one it's just shocking. It sets everything up. I mean, it really tells you this is not going to be The Walking Madmen, which would be a great show of dead advertising executives walking around
drinking whiskey and just pouring out of them like a Daffy Duck cartoon.
That would be great.
Yeah,
I would love that show.
Jacob would love that.
Oh yeah. Anything that involves whiskey, Jacob is down.
This is, by the way, the running gag of me on this network. I'm pretty sure every show I've been on.
This Week in Winos, and you hosted.
My dad is not a fan. Everybody's like, "You're not drinking too much whiskey." I'm like, "No, Dad, I swear it's just a joke."
Don't worry, he has car service. He's all set.
It's all good.
Yeah,
he gets picked up and dropped off. He's not an alcoholic at all. We swear.
Thanks.
You got it, buddy.
I got another call coming waiting for me now.
So 2 on 2, basically, we feel the little girl death. Not only is it the death of a little girl, which is kind of a big deal. He shoots a little girl zombie or not in the head.
Yeah, but it's also the man's wife, like someone that he had all this connection to. Like, Rick,
no, but wait a second. Look,
Rick doesn't have connection to that little girl. Like, he sees her on the street, and that's it. But you know, the husband had this connection to his wife. She's now a zombie. Like, having to put her out of her misery, that holds so much more weight than a girl that Rick doesn't know in the beginning.
And
although, wait a second, though. I would think that the opening kill, also, if you've shopped at a Walmart and seen annoying little kids, is kind of wish fulfillment.
That's true.
How many annoying kids have you seen at Walmart that probably would be better off as zombies?
Exactly. So it was cathartic for us fans who hate little girls.
I'm really surprised that the prison hasn't come up yet in the show. I'm dying for it. I think as a reader of the Walking Dead comics, once the everybody got to the prison, that was the best part. I hope I'm not ruining anything. It's been talked about quite a bit, but I feel like once they get there, the show really amps up. I am reminded though that the Bruno Mattei made this cult classic, Hell of the Living Dead, where there are child zombie kills. So, just in terms of factual accuracy, that should be corrected. But man, I cannot wait for them to get to the prison. It's probably going to be season 3 or 4 at this pace. Anyways, back to this week in The Walking Dead.
Talk about that cold open, man. Not mine. Merle's.
Right.
I mean, wow. What is up with him going nuts on a roof for a day? I mean, Tim, you brought up a point. I guess he's coming off of a coke high.
Right.
Can't be easy.
It can't be easy. Chained to a radiator. Now, are we supposed to feel bad for this dude? Because it kind of felt like it was like, oh God, why? I deserve this. I'm like, yeah, you deserve this.
You deserve it. So.
But I don't feel bad for him.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I said. It's no way to go. You know what I mean? It would have been better to let him go and say, go your separate ways. But to leave him there chained like an animal, possibly be the food for the zombies. That's the thing. Eventually, everyone's going to feel badly about that.
Yeah.
And any bad drug experience, to me, you always are going to make a phone call you shouldn't to an ex-girlfriend. But all of his ex-girlfriends are zombies.
So he
They're
just got a
all
lot
dead,
of groaning
pretty much.
on the other end of the line.
Yeah.
You know what I did love about it, though, honestly, is when when the zombies started to come and he started to panic a little bit. Everybody always says you don't believe in God until you're close to death. So he went the death card, like the God card, when he came close to death, and then all of a sudden he went against him and said, "I don't need you now. I don't ever." And then you saw it happen. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's like he was bargaining with God, and he's like, you know what? It's not going to work.
Yep.
It's not going to work. I don't care about him, but I do, however, care about Norman Reedus, his bro in the show, who you affectionately refer to him as the Boondock Saints guy.
I like the Boondock Saints guy in the show.
Boondock Saints guy.
He's
awesome.
there to kick some ass.
He is there. He is there to kick ass, and he definitely does with our favorite weapon on the show so far, which is the crossbow.
Yes.
We actually talked about last episode, the cool thing about a crossbow, reusable ammo,
Right.
ranged weaponry, quiet.
Yes.
Badass because
Yeah.
it's quiet.
It's not going to echo throughout the valley
Right.
and attract other zombies.
Yeah. So that's the really cool part about that. And I know we were talking about Daryl and how he was pissed off, and the little wrestling match he had with Shane was like, chokeholds are illegal. Like, that was kind of, it was like, that's my favorite line now. I'm just yelling that at my apartment. Chokeholds illegal, man. Like, that's like my favorite thing to do. But like, should they have gone back? I mean, the barrel of guns, or like the bag of guns, is one thing.
See, what justified that was the walkie-talkies. I think because he's trying to get in contact with the father and his son,
Right,
like he
right.
promised, because he wouldn't even be alive without them. So that I would justify. Going back from Merle, I don't think was worth it at all.
So it was all about going back for the walkie-talkies,
Yeah.
is what you're saying.
And I think he
More
used
about,
that.
more about the
Gotta have
guns.
ammo.
Merle's just an excuse.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when your girlfriend says, "Hey, can you go pick up tampons?" But you're really there to get beer and porn.
Exactly.
You know,
But
we've
you get
all
the
done
tampons.
those
But you
for-
get the tampons.
Sure, I'll go
Yeah.
do that favor for you, and then you pick up other stuff.
Of course. But I thought it was really interesting, that whole scene where he's like, all right, I'm going to go back and get the guns. But it felt like a video game where he's like, in order to get the guns, he's going to need, or in order to get Merle, he's going to need the bolt cutters. In order to get the bolt cutters, he's going to need to give them a gun. In order to get the guns, he has to go back. So it was kind of interesting.
I
like,
felt like I had to click on my inventory after a while.
yeah, it was just too much. It was weird. It was like the Oregon Trail. It's like you need to do this, this, and that to get this.
You know, and correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't one of the guys have a grenade? Or didn't he find the grenade on the guy in the tank?
I thought he did.
I thought he did. Why don't they just get all the zombies at one point and drop that
Well,
grenade
there's
on
more
them?
than that many.
But still, that would take a lot of them out.
That's the polar opposite of the crossbow, because A, it makes a lot of noise.
Yeah, they're trying to be quiet about what they
But
do.
when they were on that roof, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking, and they were walking through the zombies, and it started to rain. I'm like, he's got to drop this grenade, man. This is his only way out.
But you got to think about, like, they still don't know, at least from what we've seen in the show, they don't know what has created this. They know that, like, okay, a bite will turn you into a zombie, right? I think that's pretty much been established.
Fever first.
Fever first.
We
Then
haven't
death.
established that. They have not made, no one has turned
But
yet.
what I'm saying is
Right.
that they don't, since they know so little about it, a grenade, I mean, some sort of, like, blood splatter that goes in your eye or some
yeah.
orifice, just like in 28 Days Later. I mean,
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's true. Yeah,
they
we have
don't
no
know
idea
what
the rules
causes,
are.
so I think the whole thing is, shoot them in the head, they're dead. And then these other, I'm sure there'll be other rules that will make their way into the show as it continues.
The popularity of the show is insane. Is absolutely insane. I expect to see a huge increase in zombies when I go out to get groceries. I expect to see people wearing zombie T-shirts. No more teenagers dressing like vampires. None of that crap.
Vampires are out.
Is there a major city in the United States that doesn't have an official zombie walk? I think that pretty much every major city, there's the Toronto zombie walk.
But how popular are they? I've never been to one.
Do they get
I've been to the
San
crazy?
Diego one during
Yeah.
Comic-Con. That
Yep.
one's a lot of fun.
Zombie walk.
I mean, there's zombie walks in every major city.
Yeah, it's called a 6-pack of beer on a long walk home.
Yeah.
We get to hang
few
out
of
and be
these.
crazy
Yeah.
public.
You know,
of these,
these days I smell a beer cabinet. I'm like, yeah, where's the hoagie stand? Where's the pizza stand?
The great thing about the show is that it came in.
Bacon hot dog.
Chocolate covered
Street meat.
bacon.
This weekend, zombie foods. This weekend. So the cool thing about the show is that it came off of this amazing point because we're kind of dying off of the vampire craze, right? So True Blood is still big. It'll be big when it comes back on the air.
True Blood has become officially the gayest show on television.
Oh, what's your hatred of the True Bloods?
I gotta tell you.
It's
just because two dudes have anal intercourse.
To quote Artie Lang, it's like 8 guys blowing 9 guys. That's what True Blood has become.
All right.
I
remember that scene.
And the fairy.
Props to Artie Lang.
Yeah.
The great Artie Lang.
The fairies and stuff too at the end. I'm not into that stuff either.
It's True Blood has jumped
the shark.
50 sharks.
Oh.
It's just become ridiculous, and they haven't even. There are other sharks where it's like Eric flies like Superman, and what the hell is? It's gotten. It's like where I feel like I'm embarrassed to be a fan of True Blood. I'm a fan of when True Blood was cool, like in the first season and maybe halfway through second season, and it's just gotten ridiculous.
Still popular
And
though.
Meredith, I'd like to hear your opinion.
You're a girl.
As a chick,
You like
because
vampires?
as someone with a vagina, you have to have
I do, yes.
a strong opinion about vampire
I'd
stuff.
rather just get back to the zombie talk.
Oh, come on!
Skip that.
really?
You don't care about the vampires.
I'm over it.
You're
I'm
over
over it. The
See, that's exactly
werewolves
what about
versus
Twilight?
vampires.
Isn't there a Twilight movie coming out?
Aren't you a
Another
Twilight? A Twilight?
No, we've actually seen Twilight
Yeah,
at
we've
midnight
seen a couple
premieres, and it's
Twilight.
Twilight.
What did I just Twilight movies together?
Twilight. That was when Bruce Willis was in, right?
Yeah.
That was my favorite.
Twilight, yeah.
I have this theory that the Shane, Lori, Rick love, it's not really a love triangle at this point. Really, it's a liability. I happen to think that Shane is one of the best characters. I think he's amazing. He's the guy that kicks ass. Rick is maybe more the brain. He's definitely the brain of the bunch. But I think his tendency to overthink things has gotten the group in trouble. But I believe that that triangle, you can't call it a love triangle, but the triangle of those 3, that's going to play out to the end of the series because it's such a major conflict. Once that goes away, the group is not as interesting. The group dynamic is just not going to be as interesting. I mean, look, there was a Team Sawyer and a Team Jack in Lost, and certainly I think Team Shane and Team Rick exists. And I really hope that they drag that out as long as possible. Once that disappears, the show's going to be missing something. So if I have to pick a team, it's Team Shane. Anyways, back to This Week in Walking Dead. It's interesting that, look, zombie anything is a conduit to discuss social issues. And it's unbelievable the number of social issues that have been touched upon in Walking Dead in just 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Racism, domestic violence, fucking in the forest, with a kid next to you in a tent. A lot of things have been discussed.
They have, and they're all still. I guess they all still hold up. People still
Right.
do all that stuff.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I was going to say, do you think,
Sorry.
though, Shane beat the crap out of that guy because he beat the woman or because he was pissed off about Rick coming back and his... That's what I love about that scene.
Absolutely.
Was he took his anger out on that guy.
He lost prime vagina and he was pissed.
Yeah.
So rather than try to sleep with one of the 2 blonde available sisters, he's just
Right.
going to beat the crap out of the sexy.
Or try to hook up both of them.
Or both of them, right?
Both of them.
Yeah. So that was also.
But that's the core of the whole show, I think, is
possibility, you never know.
that triangle.
Yeah.
That's the Greek tragedy part of the whole story. Is like, it's like what's going to happen with these 3 people who are all in love with each other in some weird way. It's like
Yeah.
they even made a point too to say he's my best friend. So it's like this weird love triangle.
We haven't seen enough
Or
of
could
that
Rick
relationship.
get together
With Shane?
with Shane, kind of a True Blood
Let's
thing.
not.
Back to your hatred of True
Bill
Blood.
and Eric.
Oh.
you know,
Not so much.
In the, I don't know, I saw those covers of Rolling Stone magazine.
Since Anne Rice, vampires have gotten the connotation of being gay. Zombies never so.
No.
We never see
don't
gay
see
zombies.
a lot
gay
of sexual
zombies.
stuff related as
Not
No.
enough is what you're saying. Not enough.
not as
enough.
much as you would expect.
Yeah. You'd think. I mean, you got this groaning, half-dead person, not very lively.
Probably pretty easy to,
Right?
Yeah.
Easy.
The
Yeah.
term skull fucking definitely takes on a whole new meaning
Absolutely.
with anything zombie related.
And that also brings up a point we talked in the last episode about. Speaking of
Segue,
Speaking of skull fucking,
Yeah.
if you will. No, that actually brings up a point. The last episode we talked about, do these zombies, can they die of not eating? And we saw like a lot of emaciated zombies in this episode, and they were
Yes.
like, how do they get to that point? It's like, well, they must not have any flesh. They made it all the way from Atlanta to here they just keep going. They just don't stop. Is that the case? You think that? I mean, or do you think that there is a be-all, end-all?
Well, I think that they're making a point with the fact that they eat horses, they eat deer. I don't recall seeing that in a zombie film before, other than Fulci's movie where he's fighting a shark. But I don't know if he even ate that.
Right.
That was more just, but it's an interesting dynamic, and they've made kind of a point of showing. So that's why I think it's going somewhere. These people are too sophisticated to just let things go by the wayside. Everything's going to pay off in one way or another, whether you have to wait one season to like Battlestar Galactica, good shows, So
so they're probably going for the long haul.
that's what I hope. So.
You think
Yeah,
so?
this is a 5+ season series.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the zombie fans just needed an outlet because we've talked about the zombie walks. There's one in every major city.
Right. There's a zombie walk. I mean, if you Google zombie walk your city, you'll probably find something if you live in a major town.
Yeah.
You could be a zombie at a zombie
So
walk.
there are people out there that
I
love
recommend
the
it.
genre. They love the genre. So why wouldn't they want to watch a show about zombies every
Yeah.
week?
Well, that's what the show allows you to do, because if you do a film and you've got a 98-minute film, you've got a 30-minute setup, who they are, what happened, 1 act, 2 act, 3 act. Here you can just take your time and develop all the things. You can make it epic.
Right.
Which
Plus,
you
you
can't
can
do in a film.
fall in love with characters. Oh, I love they get killed. It's
They do.
crazy.
They do. And you've seen more than we have, so I don't know if anybody
Yeah,
else. I don't want to know.
Don't spoil it.
It's not. It's yeah. It's.
I don't
it's-
want to know.
I will say this. No spoilers. But episode 5 takes a dramatic turn away from the comic.
Really?
Hmm.
Well, that's
I'm
weird.
not
That's a
gonna say.
discussion we've had since day one. Is that they? I mean, the Dixon
can't
brothers
wait.
alone. The Dixon brothers alone
Yeah.
is kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're kind of doing that, I don't know. It could be interesting.
It works.
I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah.
More, please.
I mean, they're making Andrew Lincoln's Rick Grimes out to be like the next great television badass. The fact that he went back for he doesn't have the hat here, but the fact that he went back for the hat, I mean, Indiana
I just
Jones.
love that he's so honorable. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, that's why.
He's a Boy Scout, and he's a badass Boy Scout, and he'll take down the bad guy. He probably would have beaten the crap out of the wife-beating husband.
But somehow the relationship issues with his wife, that has to come out.
I rewatched the episode after he said that. I mean, was it relationship issues, or it just seemed like because she had said something to the son like, "Why do you have to go out? I hope you come back alive." I think it just seems like she doesn't like the fact that he puts himself in danger.
Right.
Which is exactly what he's doing. He went back to town to do that again.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like you guys talking about what a good guy is and a badass. I mean, he's Jesus, is what he is. He died and came back.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's who he is. That's why he's always on the straight.
There it is.
He's always going to make the right choices.
Yeah.
He's the Messiah in this whole thing.
He
I mean,
definitely
that's.
is.
I mean, I hate to put it that way. Because
No,
that's a
well,
little
it works. I mean, better
pretentious,
this than The
but
Matrix,
that's what he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Neo.
That's
Yeah.
pretentious,
But,
cool stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, but that's what he is. He died and came back. So.
Good point.
That is a very good point.
I love
Hey,
that.
that's what I get paid to
I'm
come
gonna
up with these
toast
things.
that
All right.
point.
Absolutely.
I'm toasting the
All
point
right,
that you
there
just
you go.
made,
It's-
sir.
To Rick is Jesus. To Rick is Jesus. So that's a really interesting point. So does that make Shane
And his exactly,
Judas?
exactly.
Is that his
Shane is
Judas?
absolutely Judas.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Betrayed him.
If you follow
Yeah.
the comic, yeah.
If you follow the comic, he's definitely
Indeed.
a Judas.
But we'll
Indeed.
see what happens. I think they're definitely handling it differently.
Absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, it's I don't know. I thought that they would wrap that conflict up by the first season. It's definitely not going to get wrapped up.
So, yeah.
It will not get wrapped up. So we were talking about zombies eating animals. They actually do in George Romero's Survival of the Dead. They actually eat. You see them eating animals. But it's funny that that's never really been addressed. I mean, in Return of the Living Dead, it's a thing, but that's a whole different. Return of the Living Dead, there are zombie animals, but I mean that's a whole separate way that zombies actually, exist. In the Romero-verse, that's never really explained. Are animals, do they come back as zombies? I guess they don't. It's just ignored. But I've interviewed George Romero before, and it's interesting. He said that he'd like to tackle that at some point because he's continued the ongoing Dead series. I will say, though, with probably less successful results. Although I love George. I mean, he basically created the zombie movie genre. Created all the rules. I had the opportunity to ask him once about actually, will he ever address the origin of zombies and how they, came to exist. I suggested, this is not exactly an original thought, but that maybe Jesus Christ was the first zombie. Think about it. He rose from the dead. His adventures after are not particularly well documented. I mean, the Catholic Church could have been keeping him. They could have kept him in a box alive for years. He is the cause of the zombie plague outbreak. Who knows? Anyways, someone should tackle that as a horror film. I think that would be awesome. Okay, back to more of This Week in Walking Dead, in embarrassing moments with me and someone I used to date who is also on the show. What
I
did
saw
Dale
this
do?
episode.
What did Dale do before? He's got that hat.
Yeah, he's got that, and the watch that he winds.
I like Dale. I wonder what he did.
I don't know. I have no idea, but
And
I mean,
his RV's pretty crappy, so he wasn't wealthy.
yeah,
exactly.
By this point in time, like, wasn't he retired? I think in the comic, like, he was traveling with his wife.
He was. He might have lost his wife, but he seems to have kind of like a almost jovial demeanor compared to everybody else. Like, in episode 3 where he's talking to Glenn about the echo of the car alarm. He's like, well, actually, I mean, where we are, they really couldn't pinpoint exactly. I mean,
Right, that's true.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, it was like, all right, wow, this guy kind of has an almost positive outlook on what's going on right now, which is interesting for someone he's old, so maybe he knows that he's going to die. I don't know. I mean, it's very interesting the way the
He does have like a very happy demeanor. I think when they're sitting around the campfire and they're kind of making fun of him for like winding his watch every day, and he's just like has this great little story, and he's just happy almost in this crazy environment.
One thing, what I was saying though about the kind of social class thing is he asked the kid, what you used to do. He was the pizza guy.
Yeah.
So they made a point of that to say that like it's the pizza guy, it's the janitor. Those were the stars of this episode.
Yeah. So it's definitely it's a working class thing. It's no longer. Atlanta is kind of its own world. Let's assume that like Atlanta is just that's it. That's zombie land basically. Nothing else exists outside of it. I doubt we'll ever see anything like New York or L.A. or any of the major cities. So let's all assume that everybody is Southern in this world, and it's hot and it smells and it's pretty bad. So in that world, I guess it kind of makes sense that they would turn everything upside down because I've never been down there, but I would assume the racial stereotypes are pretty black and white. They're pretty. It's pretty much one side or the other. I mean, from what I've understood, from what I've heard,
from what you've seen,
from what I've seen in other
movies,
pop culture,
like Mississippi Burning. That's a good one that kind of deals with that. But no, look, having I first of all been to Atlanta many times. I was there for Dragon Con. I think there were people there dressed as zombies. And I've been to many of the southern states just traveling. I don't know. I kind of think that like all that stuff, I don't know. Any racial stereotype stuff is bullshit. It's always bullshit. It's irritating to me, and I don't think it just reflects reality. I like actually the way that they're handling it on this show.
Because they're turning it on its head.
Turning it on its head, and it's not what you would expect.
Yeah.
And they also played with that theme too of women and men too.
Yes.
In the same episode, which I found interesting. So it's like they were setting up the whole show. Who does what?
Right.
When society collapses, how it goes back, 1,000 years, 2,000 years to
Where
those
the
kind of
women are doing
situations.
laundry.
Doing the
Yeah.
laundry.
The Hattie
Yeah.
McDaniel
Nothing.
work.
Right.
The Hattie McDaniel work.
Place in the caste system.
Yeah.
This episode.
So that's what it breaks down to. I mean, it's no longer working class and upper class. I mean, everybody's on the same level.
Yeah.
But then it becomes man versus woman, white versus black. That's what it breaks down to because we have nothing else.
Yeah.
It's just a societal breakdown. So that's interesting. So that's basically what Vatos, what the title of the episode was all about. I know we've been avoiding it, but that final scene.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Pretty epic. Pretty damned epic. I mean, we lose a couple characters. I was thinking about it when I wrote the show rundown today. I was like, we can't not talk about the character we lose. I mean, Amy, she goes. Poor Amy. Poor Amy goes,
Amy.
unfortunately. Yeah. Which is upsetting because Andrea, I mean, they have that really, really touching scene.
When you say she goes, I mean, she's been bit.
She's been bit.
We don't know what's going to happen.
She has to become a zombie. In the world, when you watch a zombie show or a zombie movie, you have to embrace the fact that if you get bit, if you get zombie blood anywhere on you or in you, if you get anything like that, you're done. You're done. You're basically done. So that I've embraced it.
Yeah.
So don't do rough anal with a zombie.
No rough anal.
Anal. No rough anal with a zombie.
None of that.
I think
All right.
Good things happen in this comic book.
Yeah.
A little happiness.
A little happiness, a lot of sex.
A lot of sex, and there is going to be a lot of sex in the AMC show,
It wasn't
too.
the jail, it was actually the farm that sold me on the series.
When they get to the farm?
Yeah.
Really? Well, hopefully we'll get there soon, too. I mean, we've got 6 episodes, and they've got a lot of ground to cover, so we'll see, and then 13 after that. So I know that we'll definitely be in it for the long haul.
No, but wait. Now, I'm curious about this because, vampires have been getting all the press lately from geeks. Are zombies the new...
Wait,
from geeks? Okay, not geeks.
Hold on. From geeks?
From people,
You don't watch the Vampire
people
Diaries?
around on the internet, but I mean, are zombies the new vampires? The vampires kind of run their course?
I see it going the same way. That said, I don't... until they can find a way to cast cute boys as zombies, which I don't think is going to happen, I don't see it going the way
Zombie
of vampires.
Bieber. I see it happening. Zombie Bieber. If it becomes popular enough, why wouldn't he jump on that
And
train?
you'll get another call. Zombie
There's zombie there's zombie There's zombie Star Wars,
Yep.
Marvel zombies, the Zombie Sears catalog, which you can
So
But
good.
again,
which
you're
is
going
really cool.
You're
Yeah.
going the geek route. The vampires need to hit a mainstream audience, and I don't see it happening. I think it's too sort of...
We need the zombie love story. That's what we need. We need like Twilight
Our
had
tech
the
guy is
vampire
having
love
way
story.
too much fun, by the way. He's trying to play too much of a role.
Yes.
I see zombie
There's a really good
strippers being-
collection of short stories, sort of set in the George Romero universe. God, I'm spacing on the name of this book, where there are 2 zombie people they're dead, who were lovers, who basically they end up eating each other.
It's not Boy Eats Girl, because that's a separate
Is that
indie
it?
It's an indie comedy that they did where the guy becomes a zombie and then still tries to fall in love with the girl, which is kind of cute. I mean, zombie movies like that will always have a place on instant Netflix, which
Yes.
is great.
Oh,
No matter what.
that's the
Like
perfect.
Dead Snow.
But again...
That's where bad zombies movies go to die. Go
do.
to be downloaded.
Netflix
Yes,
instant
yes.
queue.
And Derek wanted us to or tech guy wanted us to studio manager Derek, happy about that. Wanted us to mention Pride and Prejudice and zombies, but again, I think these are things that are tailoring more to either the hardcore geek audience or like the fringe geeky audience, not the people who are reading Twilight. And without a Twilight, there is no vampire.
So are you saying that we sitting here are sort of a subset of geeks, like Doctor Who fans?
Exactly. I think so.
Well, see, and this is where I think it does get a little...
Like we're the type of geeks that get made fun of by other geeks? Is that what you're telling
Well,
me?
it could be worse. It could be zombie geeks.
I think this is where zombies actually do make a bigger step in that I am not a zombie geek. I'm not part of that subset, but I was drawn in with the same things that drew me into a lot of other sort of geeky
But you're a
things.
geek
Friends.
of many other
Right.
shades.
And
I was
that's
gonna say,
what-
you were
I'm
just
saying-
talking about not having a girlfriend and not getting laid.
And this
recently.
just became This Week in Therapy, and he's done. Good night, everybody.
This week in your HJ.
So this might become more of a mainstream thing in geekitude, but not in mainstream audience, because there can't be a Twilight or a True Blood with zombies.
Is it because zombies are gross? Like
Yes.
vampires are sexy, zombies are gross.
Well,
Yes.
vampires have always been
Yes.
sexy. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole thing.
If you're a
The vampire.
necrophiliac,
If-
yes.
Well, no, I mean, Anne Rice made vampires sexy. I
Oh,
mean,
sorry, she said zombies.
no, vampires.
I'm like,
Vampires are.
zombies have
Yeah,
always been
zombies are
sexy, right?
sexy, man. Who doesn't
There
love
is that one full frontal naked zombie in the original Night of the Living Dead, if you remember.
True. That's true. Who doesn't freeze frame on that every
I'm saying
week?
the girlfriendless Jacob freeze frames a few times.
Yeah.
The girlfriendless Jake. We're actually going to get that on a lower third.
Can
we
we?
can have
Derek?
that.
Derek?
Yeah, then we'll work on that for next time.
Okay, no, but wait, what do we say at the end of every show?
We say you.
Aim for the head. Aim for the head.
Aim for the head.
Aim for the head.
All together now. Aim for the head. Just me now. All right, cool.
Just
That's
you.
awesome. Just me.
you.
That's
Maybe
No,
fine.
no, no. If you cue us, we'll do it.
And ready? And
Aim for the head. So that's our show this week. I hope you enjoyed some of these clips. I think any conversation about zombies is timeless. And I'm so looking forward to what's to come for The Walking Dead. I think it's one of the best shows on television, bar none. It's certainly the best show with zombies. And let's hope that it doesn't create a whole onslaught of more zombie shows, because my guess is they're all going to suck. But I really want to thank Matt Raub. You can follow him at Matt Raub on Twitter. And Meredith Stokes, if you want to see what she's up to, you can follow her on Twitter at Typhoid Annie. That's Typhoid Annie. I don't follow her out of respect. I don't. I just think that that's the right way of doing things. And but I'm sure I'll run into her at some point. And you know what I would say? Here's what I would say to her. I would say, hi. Because I'm a nice guy when it comes to that. Obviously, I was with her for a reason, and I think it's just not, I mean, obviously we bonded on our love of zombies. We both had huge love of zombies. So that's there you go. You can hear me stammering here. I can't. Hollywood is such a small town that I have this policy where I will never date anyone from my work, but I usually end up dating people that are sort of peripherally, and they always pop up. I can't. I'm so good at these mistakes. Please mock me and make fun of me. But also, you know what would really help me out? My short film Red, about the infamous 2 bar tapes, and that bartender Red who's like tortured by prank phone calls. You know, is Al there, alcoholic? You can get Red now on DVD. It's loaded with extras, including behind the scenes commentary. I even recorded a drunk commentary. This is a short film I made years ago. I'm not going to tell you it's great, but I think you'll be entertained at least by the extras. If you go to Etsy.com, that's ETSY.com, search for Red DVD, and you enter the offer code PodCRASH, you'll get 50% off the DVD. That's right, 50%. That's a pretty good deal. I've only got 1 box of these DVDs left. Once they're gone, that's it. I'm not making any more. It's a little short film I made, Red. There are no zombies in it, but there's quite a bit of violence. I think you would like it. I appreciate you guys listening to the show. I really have to say that the comments on iTunes have just been great. I'm going to be reading a bunch of those next week. I am going to get to that, folks. So if you go to iTunes, do me a favor. Just give us a 5-star review if you think we deserve it, and leave a comment. I do read them all, and on our next episode, I'll be responding to the comments in that section on iTunes. If you post there, I'm gonna talk to you. I'm gonna mention whatever your iTunes username is. Okay, so please go ahead and do that. Thanks again for listening. And as I like to say every week on the show, and it can be heard in so many movies, let's get out of here!
You, drag that out of here and throw it on the fire. Nothing down here? All right, go ahead down and give him a hand. Let's go check out the house. There's something there. I heard a noise. All right, Vince, hit him in the head, right between the eyes. Good shot. Okay, he's dead. Let's go get him. That's another one for the fire.
Hey, if you're still listening to this, you're probably a lot like me. You're the kind of person who stays through the end credits of a movie and looks at all the names. Hey, I know a guy named Dave Williams, as the name scrolls by on the screen. Well, for that, you shall be rewarded. If you send a self-addressed stamped envelope to PodCRASH with that Chris Gore, 5042 Wilshire Boulevard, PMB 1500, Los Angeles, California, 90036, you shall be rewarded. You will get a gift in return. Something small, something that will be a token of my appreciation for listening to the end of the show, and I will thank you for it. Later.